a couple minutes to get changed, get back on to the stools. Now, some of you were here for the band's visit. Who was here for our first talk back for the band's visit? Okay, good. Do we have any newbies tonight? Who's their first talk back Thursday? Okay, welcome. This is your chance to ask the cast and crew. I believe we just had cast tonight. Any questions you have about the show, life on the road, things in general. The one thing is with the cast will be on stage, they used to be up here. So when you see the cast come out, if you wouldn't mind cheering for them so I know to turn and look this way, so I know to turn. My name is Teresa Dickerson. I'm Director of Marketing and Communications here at ASU Gambit. I'll be moderating this talk back tonight. And I like to line up a few questions while we're waiting for the cast to show up. So, who has a burning question and wants to go absolute first? I see a hand right there in the blue fence. What is the hardest thing and the hardest song to do in the show? That's correct. Okay, you're number one. Okay, number two is right here.
How did he train to go from vocally?
Oh, vocally. Oh, that's a good question. Okay, the second question is right here, is how does he flip back and forth between Michael and Dorothy vocally? Okay, so I have 1, 2, okay, I feel like 3 is going to be somewhere over here. What's my third question? Okay, maybe not over here. Oh, it's right there.
How did you do those quick changes so fast?
Okay, the question's on the quick changes. With the costumes?
Yeah.
The quick changes in the costumes. So I have question 1, 2, and 3. Okay,
I think
see.
they're wearing green.
Oh. Let me see. The next question is right there.
Yeah, I have a question about, do you want me to ask like that whole question? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, my question is about the guy who played the lead and his acting method and how he did the physicality. How
Okay.
he studied to do that.
Oh. Welcome to Talk Back Thursday. Thank you for joining us. Okay, we're going to start out with a really difficult first thing. Could you mind introducing yourself? What's your name? What part you played tonight? And where you're from?
Do you want the mask off so you can hear me better, or is it?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Kathy Halinda. I'm from Virginia, originally Richmond, Virginia. I've lived all over the East Coast, and I played Rita Marshall, the producer.
Oh yeah.
My name is Drew Becker. I am from Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and I play Michael Dorsey.
Yeah.
My name is Ashton Lambert. I'm from Houston, Texas, and I'm a swing and the assistant dance captain. You actually didn't see me up here tonight, but I cover all of the ensemble roles.
Hooray.
Hi, I'm Lexi Baldacchino. I am originally from a little town called Millstone, New Jersey, and I'm the dance captain, female swing. I also was not up here tonight, but I cover all of the ensemble roles as well.
And she's played male ensemble several times.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. We lined up a few questions, so we're going to kick it off to our first question is right back there in the pink mask. The hardest song that you had to do.
I think the hardest one to learn was Most Important Night. There's just a lot of different parts and a lot of different harmonies in that one, and I think that one took the longest to learn.
Yeah, we also started with that one on day one, first day of rehearsal, right out the gates, 8 a.m. There we were singing Most Important Night.
For me, it was Most Important Night. I think all of us had a struggle with that. I'm sure Drew has another opinion on that, but for me, Most Important Night is really hard because I sing that long note in it, and I can never come in right. It took me forever to get it. But yes, it's a lot of moving pieces and moving vocal lines in that song, so it was difficult for all of us.
I'm not in Most Important Night. But I think that the hardest number for me to learn was probably Unstoppable. Just because out of all of my songs, that's the one that I'm involved with where there's the most amount of moving pieces.
That's just the screen.
Yes, at the end of Act 1. Yeah. I don't, yeah.
Okay, our second question is right here.
Michael, how did you vocally learn to go from Michael Dorsey to Dorothy Michaels and back and forth within your range, expanding your range?
So, did everybody hear the question? Okay, no. The question was how did I vocally handle going from Michael to Dorothy? The preparation for it, I think,
Yeah,
right?
and the songs as well.
The songs as well. I was very lucky because our producers and our creative team helped set me up with a dialect and vocal coach, and so we found through working together, we found a placement in my voice in which I would speak as Michael and in which I would speak as Dorothy. Something that isn't, I guess, a super mockery kind of way of a female voice, but would be Michael's version of that. So I had a lot of help. I had the whole creative team helping guide me. And then also working with Andrea Grody, who is our music supervisor when we were in rehearsals, and now we have the incredible Soto, who is our conductor, who works with us. Andrea worked with me one-on-one via Zoom, and then in person a couple times when we were in rehearsals, on finding, again, the placement with the falsetto with singing. It sounds super high, but it's more so about forming the voice and like the vocal texture of the character that actually makes it sound higher than it is.
It was fabulous.
Well, thank you.
She
I
said
appreciate
it was
that.
fabulous. Can we all give him a
and you're-
round of applause? That was amazing.
And your dog is a week, folks. Your dog is absolutely adorable.
He loved the first time you became Dorothy.
Did he clap?
No, but his ears perked up, and you could tell it was a different sound than what he had been hearing.
Oh.
He's a theater buff. What can I tell you?
Thank you. That's a very lovely compliment. Thank you.
Our third question is right here.
My question is about the quick changes. I noticed there was a lot, and they're all really fast. I want to know how many times you practiced it, or how hard it was, especially for some of them.
Can you walk us through the costume quick changes? Because there were a lot of them in this show.
Every character's got, it's a different track for every character. I think you probably have the quickest ones.
The one behind the screen for opening night.
Yeah, you have the most, the quickest. We have dressers, we have a great wardrobe staff, and the local, when we get here, there's a local staff as well that's on wardrobe, that they are given track sheets of where we need the changes done, what we're changing in and out of. It's a very complicated piece of choreography that we do every night with the dressers and local and our regular. We have 2 regulars who are on each side of stage that know what's going on and can help the locals if there's an issue. But pretty much every night, something is bound to go wrong. I have gone on stage and had my skirt fall down completely. I was in my girdle and my hose, and my skirt around my ankles. And Michael Dorsey, or Dorothy at the time, was looking at me like, what is that?
For me, I have a little SWAT team off stage that travels with us, and then we have one person from each town who joins our team. So basically, if you were to watch, like for instance, the very first change that I go from Michael to Dorothy is I think 45 seconds. And so I basically walk off stage, strip off all of my Michael stuff, and stand there with my arms out. As they put nails on me, as I get handed lipstick, I put it on. I mean, we had quick changing rehearsals, for me at least. I had quick changing rehearsals with the dressers, and we have a star dresser that travels with us everywhere who helps who's in charge of all of those changes. And so we had rehearsals for that, and then just through doing them over and over and over and over again, you kind of find your rhythm. You know,
It's like a dance. It really is. It's an off-stage dance.
Yeah, so it's like now we can go out, and now I am not crapping my pants in the middle of them. And we can joke around during our changes and stuff too. We can actually have fun instead of it being a
type of pressure and situation.
I mean, I can speak a little bit on behalf of like the ensemble. I think the fastest change that the ensemble has is 23 seconds, and at least for the male ensemble. And a lot of the changes that are that fast, we have a lot of costumes underneath our costumes. And so you'll see like in those opening number costumes, those, we call them our Greek chorus costumes, you see them come out in the opening, you keep seeing them out in. You'll see that there are lots of layers to those costumes. That becomes helpful because you can hide lots of things under those layers. And so a lot of our quick changes is just stripping off our clothes and going back on stage.
Yeah, and I think the fastest change for some of the female ensemble happens at the beginning of Act 2, and we have a wig change as well as a costume change. And I think the quickest one that has to be done is like 49-50 seconds. So.
Also, I just want to say, in tandem with all these quick changes and everything, the two people sitting to my left, the work that they have to do is tremendous. And one night we had the two of them splitting 5 roles on stage because we had enough people injured and out of the show just because of sickness and stuff. And so these two are two of the hardest working people in the entire cast, and they're incredible.
Okay, our fourth question is right there.
Hi, my question's for Drew. I just loved how you did the physicality between the two different characters. Like, you didn't overdo it or make it dramatic. It was like very realistic and like, but yeah, so basically my question is, what were like the things that you were like the most aware of physically with Dorothy, and also how did you go about practicing and studying and how to be able to do that so naturally?
Tell the high heel story.
The high heel story. Oh, well, because I got the role in June of 2021, and we started rehearsals. Yes.
The physicality of the role of Dorothy. So the question was, how do you become Dorothy physically?
Yeah.
There we go.
And how did you study too?
How did you study to become Dorothy physically? So you kind of covered the vocally, but physically, how did you become Dorothy Michaels?
So I spent the whole summer I just spent the whole summer trying to like practice walking in heels. Just because
I love that idea. Walking around the house, hi mom, hi dad.
I really did. I would like cook and everything. It was great. And so because I spent about, it was like every other week or so I would like up the amount of time so that I could get to about like 3 hours, which is about the duration of the show. And I don't wear the heels for the whole show. So if I could walk in heels consistently that whole time, then I would be fine. But I actually didn't have that much of a problem with it.
Now he likes it.
Then I would say give it a try.
It really good for the calves.
It makes you feel confident in ways that you wouldn't know. But with finding the physicality, there was basically, I only watched the movie one time, and it was when I had my first appointment for the role in 2020, which was May of 2020. So I only watched the movie one time, and then I was like, that's it. I don't want to look at it, because he's amazing and I can't be him, And this is something totally different in and of itself, Like, we still have the heart of the story, but like this is a brand new thing. And so I started to just look at women that I deem as very strong and very powerful, and so I would look at pictures of like Meryl Streep, Michelle Obama, Kerry Washington. Those were my big 3. And like a lot of like the hand stuff is Meryl Streep in interviews that I've watched. I just watched a lot of interviews with those people, and there's only so much that I could prepare until I actually got into the dresses. And then once you put on these costumes that are absolutely amazing, it does something to you that you can't study, Like the second that I put on a dress for the first time, you move differently than you do than I did as Michael. And it's just like, it's finding those things, finding those little ticks. One tick that like I found that is I play with my nails a lot. And it started from, and that was just developed throughout the run of the show because it started out as me trying to keep the nails sticking on. But then it's just developed into just me touching my fingers, you know? And so it's like the subtle things like that. So yeah, it was watching videos of people that I deemed as really powerful, and rehearsals and just doing it over and over and over again.
Oh, thanks.
How many of y'all saw his nails fly off during the show?
None did today.
None did?
None.
Usually you can see one
Sometimes,
fly off, like, there goes the nail.
when I'm like, I pick it up, sometimes the nail goes. That's great.
Okay, I saw there was a hand right here. Yes.
Okay, how would you compare yourself on how you were with Michael tonight? Like, what is the one thing you could relate to?
What's one thing that I can relate to with Michael?
Well, personally, but it could be in the show itself, or it could apply anywhere out here.
Absolutely. I completely understand his drive and ambition to want to accomplish the things that he wants to accomplish. He has these massive dreams and these massive goals that he wants to achieve. And so I understand that motivation. He just has the worst attitude, you know? So I understand wanting to be the most prepared person in the room, wanting to do your homework, wanting to accomplish your goals. I understand where his heart is, but yes, that's how I relate to Michael. I understand where his heart is. And then he doesn't handle his situation as well.
Very good.
Okay, I see a hand right back there.
For me, no. I've always played tough bras, and I liked Rita. And in the movie, the producer really wasn't in the movie. She had she never really said anything. So for me, it was a brand new role. And Rita Marshall became a little bit more of a character as the producer of the Shakespeare play. So I really didn't have any pressure on that. I loved the movie, and I'm one of the only ones who remembers the movie. I'm the old one of the bunch. These kids are like, Tootsie, what? Dustin Hoffman, who? You know. So. But it's a very different show. The storyline is basically the same, but there are different characters. The movie had the director was the Ron, very funny. Fell in love with Dorothy, the older guy that falls in love with Dorothy, the doctor on the soap opera. So the characters are different, and they've added some new characters and taken some away. But I really like the story, so I myself had no pressure stepping into Rita's ballsy gold shoes.
Yeah, I can't say, I actually grew up watching the movie. My parents showed me the movie when I was younger, and I actually loved the movie growing up. But I can't say that going into the show, because it is so different than the movie. And I sort of just walked into it being a fresh piece and not thinking about it being the movie. Were there no nerves coming into the show? Absolutely not. I was so scared. I actually was finishing my senior year of college while doing this tour and just graduated in December. But so this is my first national tour, all of that stuff. So like the nerves of being the youngest person coming into the cast, all of that stuff, like never having toured before, that was all terrifying for me. But I think I was so nervous about all of that I forgot about how iconic the movie was.
Yeah, I also think the same that he said. I mean, you're nervous walking in. I think you're also nervous walking in because Robert Horn won a Tony Award for this book, and the show was on Broadway, and we're about to take this out on the country, and you're kind of freaking out because you're like the first cast of the national tour, and so there's a lot to live up to with the movie and how successful the show was on Broadway. But yeah, I think the nerves came more from it being the first tour and all of that stuff, and I feel like with the ensemble, it's like you don't really get that in the movie, so it's you kind of get to create a character that didn't exist prior.
Or 5. Or 12.
Okay, we have a question right there.
I wonder if you talk a little bit about what the understudies do. I was looking at the understudies, and there are like one actor that is covering like 3 roles, for example, or 2 or 3 roles.
They've pretty much all gone on at this point, haven't they? The understudies.
A handful, yeah.
Oh, except for Adam's understudy, but Alec went on for Stan's.
Yeah, our band has never missed a performance.
They have rehearsals every week, usually 1 day a week. You guys would probably be the best ones to address that.
So the understudies, we have a rehearsal every Thursday, so we had rehearsal today. And as dance captains, so we're in charge of putting them into all of the musical numbers, and then our stage manager is in charge of making sure that they know all the scene work and their lines and their blocking and all of that stuff. They didn't get a whole lot of time in rehearsal because the rehearsal process for the show was only 3 weeks. But a handful of them, like Connor, who is Drew's understudy, Dominique Kempf, who is Julie's understudy, the first time they went on, it was literally incredible for the amount of time that they had to learn it, really. And it wasn't really with the creative team. They really just had us and our stage manager, Suzanne, to guide them. But yeah, we have a rehearsal every Thursday to keep them up and going. And I mean, everyone that's gone on so far has done an amazing job. So.
But you're right, some of them do understudy more than one person.
Yeah, Alec
which is
understudies
difficult.
almost every male role except for Max. He's incredible. Yeah.
It's amazing.
Okay, we have time for one more. Okay, I'll do 2 because I saw like a bunch of hands go up. Okay, I have a hand right there. You're gonna be one of our questions.
So, as the parent of someone who is a theater kid,
Bless your heart.
So how, as professionals, do you handle the hard part of this when you don't get the role you want?
Therapy.
This is what I tell kids and mothers of kids that want to be in theater. I've done this since I was 5 years old. I have nothing else in my body or my psyche that fulfills me the way theater does, performing. If there is anything else you can do, sweetie, that you have a love for doing, a passion, whether it's science or animals or doctors, nurses, anything else you would love to do and enjoy doing, do it. Because theater is not an easy life. It is really difficult in so many ways. But if you're like me, and it's the only thing you've ever known how to do that made you feel good about yourself, then you're stuck. And you have to keep going at it. And that's what I've done. But if you could do anything else, I would say go that route and keep theater as a hobby. Because theater is tough. Rejection is constant in this business.
So with the no's, with dealing with no's, it was really hard for me to hear that all the time. At first, I was having so many close calls between me and 2 other people for replacements at Broadway companies and touring companies. And it's heartbreaking, you know. I stopped telling my mom when they told me no. Yeah, because they cry more. And but like the biggest lesson that I learned was actually from getting this job. So our casting director, Chad, I've been in front of him and have probably been into like final callbacks almost every single time I get called in for a project that he calls me in for. And it's always been no. It's never been his decision, you know, but it's always been a no for all the things that he put me up for. And so the creative team of this was looking for somebody that like had like these boxes to check. And Chad was like, well, I know a guy who keeps getting no, but always shows up super prepared. And he always has a good attitude. And so all of my no's were what put me up for this, which actually led to be a big yes, you know? So just because it's a no doesn't mean, it just means no right now. And those casting people behind the tables, they're working on other shows. Those directors, they're working on other shows. And so they could look at you in that audition and be like, oh, well, we have to tell her no for this because in a couple months I'm gonna call her in for this. that she'll get. So the no's are hard to hear, but it's what's meant to be. You know, I'm a big believer that what is meant to be will happen. And so it hurts, and so you have friends. You have friends, you surround yourself with a good support system who's gonna be there to give you a hug, you know? When you get a no, you know, get some Ben & Jerry's.
But the thing is, even if you get on Broadway, the big yes, a week later it could close.
Yeah,
and you're back waiting tables.
Absolutely.
That's the horror of this career we love so much. That in between shows, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
I substitute teach, I bartend, you know, there's things you don't always have a guaranteed gig.
But my biggest piece of advice, genuinely, like if there's one thing that I would ever be able to like pass on to anybody, it would be that genuinely you only have control of two things ever, and that's how prepared you are and your attitude. And so if you're walking in immensely prepared and you have one of the best attitudes, you're gonna get work eventually.
Yeah, I always say what's meant to be for you won't pass you by. And it's exactly what he said. Every no that you get, you're still in the room making connections with casting directors and people. So all of the no's do eventually lead to a yes. And now I'm lapsing on what was it? You covered most of it.
But you'll be sad.
But yeah, you'll be sad. You eventually stop telling your mom about the little ones. Because they get more upset than you do. But I also just finding a hobby that you love. Like Kathy kind of said, like if there's like a hobby or something that you love that will also like, you know.
No, if there's something you love that you can make a living do that.
Yeah, see,
theater can be a hobby for, you know, a doctor.
I need just like a little side hobby that keeps you also happy so that when you are getting the no's that it's not detrimental and then, you know.
And sweetie, don't give 100%, give 150 every time.
Yeah, whatever you put in, you're going to get back.
It's got to be 150, then you'll get noticed.
Okay, no pressure, but we have time for one more question, so it's got to be a really good one. Woo! Okay, do you feel the pressure? Because it's going to be you. It better be a really good one. Okay, let's hear it. That's a good one. What part of the show is your favorite that you look forward to doing the most in the show?
I think my favorite is I like what she's doing. Although, as a swing, it is my most stressful number because there's a lot of moving parts, but I love the costume reveal in it. So I think that's the one that I most look forward to. And then we have a nice little dancey part at the end of it. That's like the playoff that transitions into the next scene. And I think that's just when I feel the most fulfilled on the stage.
I think for me, it's probably gotta be the warm-up dance in Most Important Night when we're staring at the audience and we're doing all those crazy sounds and we're doing all the things, then we go into the turn section. I'm always like, I am living for this. I am moving my body in every way, and I think that's my favorite part to do.
Mine is the dressing room scene with Drew.
Really?
Yeah, because we actually have a connection for the first time in the show. And I adore you too, sweetie. When I get my lines right, sometimes people, you know, things happen. But I look forward to that because it's the only time I get. You know, I love singing I love what she's doing. What's the song called? I like what she's doing because I love singing. But the acting part, I don't get much of a chance to do an act until I get to that scene, and I really enjoy connecting with Dorothy at that moment.
And you're amazing. You're hilarious. My favorite part is the entire sequence in Act 2 from when Max comes into my apartment.
Which is your favorite part as well.
From when Max comes into my apartment, reveals his tattoo, then Jeff walks in, and then that whole situation just is insane. And then Stan comes in, and he leaves, and comes back. And that whole sequence in that apartment is my favorite scene. I look forward to it every single night. Also because it's so different every single night. It's different. Because it depends on how much the audience is responding and how much they're laughing, how much we get to do. And by the way, these audiences here have been the best.
Phenomenal. Thank you.
Seriously. Like, seriously, these audiences this week, y'all have been treating us like Aerosmith. And it's like the laughs and the involvement, it seriously has so much effect on us. Because it's a give and take, especially with it being a comedy. And when we've played some houses where it's like,
You're in the cherry orchard. I mean, this straight play, what is going on?
So that's my answer. Thank you for that question.
That was you fulfilled on the great last question. Thank you.